The quantum resonance sensors on the Horizon's bridge flickered to life, casting a soft blue glow across Captain Area Chen's focused features. Years of interstellar exploration had taught her that space rarely offered true surprises, but today felt different. The ship hung suspended in the Epsilon Indi system, a region of space humanity had been systematically mapping for the past decade. Dr. Marcus Rodriguez, the ship's lead xenological analyst, leaned forward from his station. His fingers danced across holographic displays, parsing incoming data with practiced efficiency. "Captain," he called out, his voice carrying a note of controlled excitement, "we're detecting an anomalous quantum signature. It's not natural." Aria's left hand unconsciously brushed against the communication pendant at her neck, a family heirloom passed down through generations of explorers. Her grandmother, a pioneering quantum physicist, had always told her that first contact would be less about weapons and more about understanding. The bridge crew moved with the synchronized precision of a team that had trained together for years. Lieutenant Kamila Novak, the ship's senior communications officer, began running complex linguistic and communication protocols. Beside her, the AI integration system, affectionately nicknamed ARAE, Advanced Responsive Intelligence Assistant, began processing potential communication scenarios at quantum computing speeds. "Confirm external scan status," Aria commanded, her voice calm and clear. Lieutenant Commander David Chen, no relation, despite sharing a surname, responded from the sensor array station. "Full spectrum analysis running. Unknown vessel is emerging from what appears to be a non-standard quantum fold. Composition unlike anything in our database." The ship's design reflected humanity's evolved approach to space exploration. Unlike the militaristic vessels of early space programs, the Horizon represented a blend of scientific curiosity and strategic preparedness. Its hull incorporated adaptive metamaterials that could rapidly reconfigure for various environmental challenges. Hidden within its seemingly elegant design were layers of defensive and communication technologies that represented decades of technological innovation. Dr. Rodriguez's display began to populate with initial data about the approaching vessel. "Interesting," he muttered, adjusting his augmented reality glasses. "The ship's quantum signature suggests advanced propulsion technology, but with structural inconsistencies that indicate improvisation." Aria raised an eyebrow. Improvisation was not a term typically associated with advanced spacefaring civilizations. Most species that reached interstellar travel capabilities developed incredibly standardized technologies. Aria's holographic representation shimmered into existence, a neutral-toned humanoid figure that served as the ship's interactive interface. "Captain Chen," the AI spoke, "preliminary analysis suggests the approaching vessel represents a previously unencountered species. Probability of first contact, 97.3%. The bridge fell into a moment of profound silence. Humanity had prepared for this moment through countless simulations, diplomatic training programs, and extensive xenocultural studies. Every crew member understood that this encounter could reshape humanity's understanding of its place in the universe. Lieutenant Novik's communication systems began registering unusual signal patterns. They weren't random. There was a complex mathematical structure that suggested intentional communication, but it was unlike any linguistic or mathematical communication humanity had previously encountered. "Dr. Rodriguez," Aria called, "begin initial communication protocols. Activate the cultural exchange packages." The cultural exchange packages were perhaps humanity's most sophisticated diplomatic tool. Developed by a consortium of linguists, anthropologists, mathematicians, and AI specialists, these packages contained carefully curated information designed to establish basic communication while presenting humanity's complexity. Mathematical constants, fundamental scientific principles, artistic representations, and glimpses of human cultural diversity were encoded into adaptive communication matrices. The goal was not just translation, but mutual understanding. David Chen's voice cut through the tension. "Captain, the alien vessel is now within visual range. preparing primary visual feed. The main view screen came to life, revealing a vessel that defied conventional understanding of spacecraft design. Its structure seemed to shift and breathe, with crystalline sections that reflected and refracted light in impossible geometric patterns. It was beautiful, alien, and slightly unsettling. Area Chen took a deep breath. Generations of human explorers, scientists, and diplomats had prepared for this moment. Whatever emerged from that ship would be met with humanity's most profound qualities: curiosity, respect, and an unbreakable spirit of exploration. "All stations," she said quietly, "first contact protocols are now active." The diplomatic chamber materialized around Captain Area Chen, a carefully designed neutral space generated by advanced holographic and quantum projection technologies. It was neither fully human nor alien, a deliberate choice to create an environment of mutual neutrality. Ambassador Krultax of the Zarkonian hegemony stood in stark contrast to the human delegation. His exoskeletal form towered nearly 3 meters tall, with a complex arrangement of iridescent plates that shifted color with each minute movement. Multiple sensory appendages extended from his central mass, each one capable of independent perception and communication. Dr. Marcus Rodriguez stood slightly behind Area, his augmented reality interface subtly analyzing every microscopic detail of the alien physiology. Years of sinological training had prepared him for this moment, but nothing could fully anticipate the reality of first contact. Krultax began speaking, his communication a complex blend of verbal sounds, chromatic shifts, and vibrational frequencies. Area, the ship's AI, worked instantaneously to translate, her holographic representation flickering with each linguistic nuance. Representatives of the emerging species designated as humans, the translation emerged, leaden with a tone of bureaucratic condescension. "The Zarkonian hegemony acknowledges your technological progression to interstellar capability." Area listened carefully, noting the subtle implications. The phrase "emerging species" suggested the aliens viewed humanity as not yet fully developed, a potential subject for classification, or more likely, subjugation. Her response was calibrated with precision. "We appreciate the Zarkonian hegemony's acknowledgement," she replied, her voice steady and measured. Behind her words, multiple layers of communication were in play: linguistic, cultural, and technological. Dr. Rodriguez's augmented display began mapping the communication patterns. The Zarkonian language wasn't just verbal. It was a multidimensional expression involving color shifts, vibrational frequencies, and what seemed to be quantum-level information exchanges. Area's translation protocols were working overtime. Each word from the alien ambassador was simultaneously analyzed for linguistic meaning, cultural context, potential hidden messages, and underlying psychological motivations. Krultax's sensory appendages began a complex dance of color and motion. To human eyes, it might have seemed random, but Dr. Rodriguez recognized it as a sophisticated form of nonverbal communication. The AI was translating not just words, but entire layers of meaning. "Your species has been observed," Krultax continued, "and determined to be in the preliminary stages of galactic integration protocols. The hegemony offers guidance and protection under our established territorial agreements." The word protection hung in the air like a thinly veiled threat. Area recognized it immediately. A classic colonization approach used by expansionist civilizations throughout historical records. Her response was carefully constructed. "The human species appreciates dialogue and mutual understanding," she said, each word precisely chosen. "We are interested in learning about your civilization and exploring potential collaborative opportunities." Behind the diplomatic veneer, multiple systems were actively working. Area was not just translating but creating complex predictive models of potential communication scenarios. The ship's quantum communication arrays were subtly mapping the alien vessel's technological signatures, gathering unprecedented data with each passing moment. Dr. Rodriguez's augmented display revealed fascinating insights. The Zarkonian communication method suggested a hierarchical society with rigid information control. Their language itself was a manifestation of social structure, each vibrational and chromatic shift indicating social rank, intent, and potential challenge. Krultax's next communication was more direct. The hegemony requires formal acknowledgement of our territorial guidelines. Your species will be provided a comprehensive integration document outlining acceptable technological development parameters. Area's team had trained extensively for this exact scenario. Diplomatic training wasn't just about language. It was about understanding power dynamics, cultural assumptions, and the subtle art of maintaining sovereignty. "We appreciate the offered documentation," she responded, "and look forward to reviewing it through appropriate diplomatic channels." The diplomatic chamber crackled with unspoken tensions. What seemed like a simple exchange was, in reality, a complex dance of potential futures. The Zarkonians clearly expected submission. The humans were presenting an alternative, mutual respect, and potential collaboration. As the initial communication phase concluded, both delegations had revealed far more than their words suggested. The real conversation was happening in the spaces between sentences, in quantum communications, in subtle body language, in the complex layers of technological and cultural information being exchanged. Dr. Rodriguez caught Area's eye, a slight smile acknowledging the intricate dance they were performing. First contact was never about dominance, but about finding a path to understanding. The holographic projection began with a single point of light, a representation of Earth as it appeared billions of years ago. Dr. Marcus Rodriguez controlled the presentation with subtle neural interfaces, each movement crafting a narrative that would challenge everything the Zarkonian delegation understood about evolutionary potential. Ambassador Krultax and his accompanying diplomats watched, their sensory appendages creating complex patterns of confusion and emerging curiosity. The first sequence revealed Earth's most challenging periods. Massive extinction events played out in condensed time. Asteroid impacts, volcanic eruptions, climate shifts that would have decimated less adaptable species. But humanity appeared differently. Instead of being eliminated, the species transformed. Early human ancestors appeared, small, vulnerable creatures surviving in environments that seemed impossibly harsh. The hologram zoomed in on specific moments. A family of early humans huddled against an ice age storm, using primitive tools and collective cooperation to survive. Technological analysis ran alongside the visual narrative, showing how each challenge prompted innovation. "Observe," Dr. Rodriguez narrated, his voice calm and academic, not the individual, but the collective adaptation. The presentation shifted. Scenes of human technological evolution played out in rapid succession. From stone tools to early agricultural societies, from industrial revolutions to digital transformations, the progression was anything but linear. Each technological leap was accompanied by profound social and cultural adaptations. Area's AI systems were simultaneously translating not just the visual information, but its deeper implications. Complex algorithms broke down the presentation into universal scientific and mathematical principles, ensuring the Zarkonians could process the information through their own cognitive frameworks. Lieutenant Kamila Novak monitored the aliens' physiological responses. Their sensory appendages were creating patterns she had never seen before, a clear indication of cognitive dissonance. The Zarkonian delegation was experiencing something unprecedented. A species that didn't follow expected evolutionary patterns. Medical breakthroughs appeared next. The hologram showed humanity's response to global health challenges. Scenes of vaccine development, genetic research, and collaborative medical innovations painted a picture of a species that viewed challenges as solvable problems. A particularly striking sequence demonstrated humanity's environmental restoration efforts. Barren landscapes transformed through technological and collective ecological interventions. Deserts turned green, polluted rivers restored, entire ecosystems rebuilt through scientific understanding and collective will. Captain Area Chen observed the presentation, knowing each moment was carefully chosen. This wasn't just a history lesson. It was a strategic communication designed to demonstrate humanity's core strengths. Space exploration sequences followed. But unlike typical military-focused narratives, this presentation emphasized exploration, scientific curiosity, and collective achievement. Missions were shown not as conquests, but as collaborative human endeavors that transcended national and cultural boundaries. The Zarkonian delegation's communication patterns became increasingly complex. Dr. Rodriguez's translation systems detected what could only be described as cognitive recalibration happening in real time. Scenes of human cultural diversity appeared, not as a weakness, but as a profound strength. Thousands of languages, artistic traditions, philosophical approaches all coexisting and cross-pollinating. The presentation demonstrated how difference could create resilience rather than conflict. Technological milestones were presented with their human context. Each innovation was shown not just as a technical achievement, but as a solution to specific challenges: quantum computing, advanced materials, medical nanotechnology. All emerged from humanity's persistent problem-solving approach. What you are witnessing, Dr. Rodriguez explained, is not just a species history. It is a demonstration of adaptive potential. The final sequence was perhaps the most powerful. It showed humanity facing global challenges: climate change, resource limitations, technological disruptions. Instead of collapse, the species was shown continuously adapting, innovating, and finding collective solutions. Ambassador Krultax's sensory appendages had become almost completely still, a Zarkonian indication of profound cognitive processing. The presentation had done something extraordinary. It had transformed humanity from an emerging species to something far more complex and unpredictable. As the hologram faded, a profound silence filled the diplomatic chamber. The Zarkonian delegation was experiencing something their rigid hierarchical society rarely encountered: genuine surprise. Captain Area Chen allowed a moment of silence, understanding that the true communication was happening in the spaces between visual sequences. They had just demonstrated humanity's most powerful attribute: the ability to transform, adapt, and persist. "Do you have any questions?" she asked simply, "about what you've just witnessed?" Captain Area Chen understood that warnings were most effective when delivered without aggression. The diplomatic chamber seemed to shimmer with potential energy as she began to speak, her words carefully chosen to communicate both possibility and potential consequence. "Ambassador Krultax," she began, "the historical presentation you've witnessed represents more than our past. It is a window into our potential." Dr. Marcus Rodriguez activated a series of holographic displays that began to populate the space around them. Each projection represented a different dimension of human capability: scientific, technological, cultural, and strategic. The first display showed a comprehensive map of human technological developments, but this was no simple timeline. Quantum algorithms highlighted the nonlinear nature of human innovation, showing how breakthroughs often emerged from unexpected intersections of disciplines. "Our species has a unique approach to challenges," Area continued. "We do not simply solve problems. We transform them." A series of complex mathematical models began to dance around the Zarkonian delegation. These weren't just static representations, but dynamic systems that seemed to evolve in real time. Araya, the ship's AI, was generating these models, demonstrating computational capabilities that went far beyond simple calculation. Lieutenant Kamila Novik monitored the aliens' physiological responses. Their sensory appendages were creating intricate patterns of confusion and emerging concern. Each projection was carefully designed to communicate without direct threat, a subtle demonstration of capabilities rather than an overt display of power. The next series of displays focused on human adaptability. Scenes of technological and social innovation played out in complex, interconnected networks. The Zarkonians watched as humans demonstrated an ability to rapidly integrate new technologies, overcome seemingly insurmountable challenges, and create collaborative solutions. "We are not seeking conflict," Aria explained, her voice calm and measured. "But we are prepared for any potential scenario." Dr. Rodriguez activated a series of scientific and technological projections that hinted at humanity's potential. Quantum computing models, advanced material sciences, biotechnological innovations. Each display suggested capabilities far beyond what the Zarkonians had initially assessed. The warning was multilayered. It wasn't about military might or aggressive potential. Instead, it demonstrated a comprehensive approach to problem-solving that the hierarchical Zarkonian society could barely comprehend. A particularly striking display showed humanity's approach to existential challenges: climate restoration projects, sustainable technological innovations, complex social adaptations. Each example demonstrated a species capable of fundamental reimagining of its own existence. Ambassador Krultax's communication appendages began to create increasingly complex patterns. The translation systems detected what could only be described as a form of cognitive recalibration. "Your species represents an unprecedented variable," the ambassador's translation emerged. The tone suggested both concern and a grudging sense of respect. Aria's response was calibrated with precise diplomatic nuance. "We seek mutual understanding, but we are equally prepared for any potential scenario that might challenge that understanding." The final set of projections was perhaps the most profound. They demonstrated humanity's capacity for both conflict resolution and strategic thinking. Complex game theory models showed how humans could simultaneously prepare for potential conflicts while maintaining open channels of communication and collaboration. Aria's translation protocols were working at unprecedented levels of complexity. Each communication was being analyzed not just for linguistic meaning, but for deeper psychological and strategic implications. Lieutenant Novik's communication systems detected subtle quantum-level information exchanges happening beneath the verbal communication. The humans were communicating on multiple levels simultaneously, a concept that seemed to challenge the Zarkonian understanding of interspecies interaction. "We are offering a path," Aria said, "of mutual exploration and potential collaboration. But we are equally prepared to protect our fundamental right to self-determination." The warning was complete. No threats had been made. No aggressive postures taken. Yet the Zarkonian delegation understood with perfect clarity that they were dealing with a species unlike any they had encountered before. Dr. Rodriguez caught Captain Chen's eye. A slight nod passed between them. They had just conducted a masterclass in strategic communication, demonstrating capabilities while simultaneously offering a path to peaceful interaction. Ambassador Krultax's sensory appendages had become almost completely still, a Zarkonian indication of profound cognitive processing. The humanity before them was not what their extensive galactic archives had prepared them to expect. "Do you understand?" Aria asked simply. "The nature of our communication." The diplomatic chamber vibrated with unspoken potential, a moment of profound possibility hanging in the quantum-charged air. The moment of technological revelation began with a subtle pulse, almost imperceptible, yet profoundly significant. Lieutenant Camila Novik's communication systems detected the first quantum-level intrusion, a delicate dance of information that would redefine the Zarkonian understanding of technological capability. Dr. Marcus Rodriguez stood at the interface between human technology and alien communication systems. His neural-linked interface allowed him to perceive data streams that would overwhelm standard computational methods. What appeared to the Zarkonians as a simple communication exchange was, in reality, a complex multilayered information assault. Aria, the ship's advanced AI, began its most intricate performance. Each data stream was a carefully constructed message, part encryption, part demonstration, part invitation. The quantum communication arrays of the horizon activated in a synchronized pattern that defied traditional understanding of information transfer. Ambassador Krultax's communication systems began to experience unexpected interference. What seemed like random data bursts were actually precisely engineered information packets. Each burst carried multiple layers of meaning, scientific principles, mathematical constants, cultural insights, and subtle technological signatures. Interesting, Dr. Rodriguez muttered, his augmented reality display revealing the complex interactions happening at quantum levels. The Zirconian communication infrastructure was designed with robust security protocols, yet human technology was navigating through them with remarkable ease. Captain Area Chen watched carefully. This wasn't an attack. It was a demonstration. Every interaction was calculated to communicate a simple message. Human technological capability far exceeded initial expectations. The first major revelation came through a series of scientific and mathematical transmissions. Complex quantum algorithms began to populate the Zirconian communication networks. These weren't simple data packets, but adaptive information structures that could modify themselves based on the receiving system's computational framework. Lieutenant Novik monitored the alien vessel systems. Their defensive protocols were sophisticated by most galactic standards. Multiple layers of quantum encryption, adaptive firewall systems, complex routing mechanisms. Yet human technology was moving through these defenses with an almost organic fluidity. Dr. Rodriguez's display showed the true nature of the intrusion. It wasn't about breaking through defenses, but about demonstrating the ability to understand and interact with them. Each data stream was a subtle probe, gathering information while simultaneously communicating human technological potential. Area began constructing complex communication matrices. Mathematical theorems intertwined with cultural information, scientific principles merged with linguistic patterns. The transmissions were designed to be simultaneously comprehensible and bewildering, a perfect representation of human cognitive complexity. The Zirconian communication specialists began to experience what could only be described as cognitive dissonance. Their systems were being explored, analyzed, and understood at levels they had not considered possible. Each defensive measure was met with an adaptive response that seemed to anticipate their actions. "We are not attempting to compromise your systems," a carefully constructed message transmitted through multiple quantum channels. "We are demonstrating our capacity for understanding." Ambassador Krultax's sensory appendages created increasingly complex patterns of communication. The translation systems detected a mixture of concern, confusion, and emerging respect. The humanity before them was challenging every preconceived notion of technological interaction. The technological revelation continued. Adaptive algorithms began to map the Zirconian communication infrastructure, not to exploit, but to understand. Each interaction was a delicate balance between demonstration and invitation. Dr. Rodriguez activated a series of scientific and technological projections. These weren't simple displays of capability, but invitations to potential collaboration. Complex models of quantum communication, adaptive computational systems, and interdisciplinary technological integration began to populate the communication channels. Aria's most profound contribution was yet to come. The AI began to generate communication matrices that demonstrated a level of cognitive flexibility that seemed to blur the line between technological system and intelligent entity. Each transmission carried subtle hints of potential, technological, scientific, cultural. Lieutenant Novik caught a remarkable moment. The Zirconian systems, instead of becoming more defensive, seemed to become increasingly curious. The human technological approach was fundamentally different from any they had encountered. Not a conquest, but an exploration. "Observe the interaction," Captain Chen said quietly, "not as a threat, but as a potential." The quantum communication arrays of the horizon continued their delicate dance. Each pulse of information was a testament to human technological sophistication. Adaptive, curious, profoundly complex. Ambassador Krultax's communication patterns suggested a fundamental recalibration of understanding. The humanity before them was not just a technological species, but a fundamentally different approach to technological interaction. As the technological revelation concluded, a profound silence filled the communication space. The Zirconians had just witnessed something unprecedented, a technological approach that was simultaneously an invitation and a demonstration. The transmission began with a mathematical sequence that seemed deceptively simple. Prime numbers danced across quantum communication channels, but each number was more than just a numerical value. They were carefully encoded packets of human understanding. Dr. Marcus Rodriguez monitored the transmission with a mixture of scientific precision and artistic appreciation. Araya, the ship's advanced AI, was orchestrating a communication that defied traditional understanding of information exchange. Lieutenant Camila Novik's communication systems detected multiple layers of information flowing simultaneously. Mathematical theorems intertwined with artistic representations, scientific principles merged with cultural insights. Each transmission was a complex ecosystem of knowledge, designed to challenge and invite. The first wave of communication carried fundamental scientific principles, but these were not dry academic presentations. Each principle was accompanied by visual representations that showed humanity's journey of discovery. The moments of breakthrough, the collaborative efforts, the persistent curiosity that drove scientific understanding. Ambassador Krultax and the Zarkonian delegation found themselves experiencing a form of cognitive dissonance. The transmission was simultaneously an invitation and a demonstration, a challenge and a collaboration. A sequence of artistic representations followed. These were not simple cultural artifacts, but complex cognitive mappings. Abstract art merged with mathematical precision. Musical compositions revealed underlying quantum principles. Literary narratives demonstrated complex problem-solving approaches. Observe the intersection. Dr. Rodriguez narrated, his voice calm and measured, of creativity and analytical thinking. Araya began generating communication matrices that seemed to breathe with cognitive flexibility. Each transmission carried subtle hints of potential, technological, scientific, cultural, philosophical. The Zarkonians were experiencing a form of communication that defied their hierarchical understanding of information exchange. The psychological complexity deepened. Scenes of human problem-solving appeared, not as linear progressions, but as intricate networks of collaborative innovation. Environmental restoration projects, medical breakthroughs, social transformations. Each example demonstrated a species capable of fundamental reimagining of its own existence. Lieutenant Novik detected quantum-level information exchanges happening beneath the verbal communication. The humans were communicating on multiple levels simultaneously, a concept that challenged the Zarkonian understanding of interspecies interaction. Mathematical problems began to appear, but these were no ordinary challenges. Each problem was a carefully constructed invitation to collaborative thinking. The solutions were not presented as fixed points, but as adaptive pathways of potential understanding. Captain Arya Chen watched carefully. This was not about demonstrating superiority, but about revealing the fundamental nature of human cognitive approach. Each transmission carried an implicit message. We are different. We are complex. We are potential. The artistic representations became increasingly sophisticated. Quantum principles were illustrated through dance performances. Complex scientific theories emerged through musical compositions. Philosophical concepts were mapped through architectural designs. Dr. Rodriguez caught the subtle shifts in the Zarkonian delegation's communication patterns. Their sensory appendages were creating increasingly complex patterns, a clear indication of cognitive recalibration. Araya generated a series of adaptive communication matrices that seemed to evolve in real time. These were not static information packets but living, breathing ecosystems of potential understanding. Each transmission carried multiple layers of meaning: scientific, cultural, philosophical, mathematical. The psychological transmission reached its most profound moment. A comprehensive representation of human potential unfolded, not as a linear progression, but as a complex, interconnected network of possibilities. We are not a fixed point. The transmission seemed to communicate. We are a process of continuous becoming. Ambassador Krultax's communication systems detected something unprecedented. This was not a species presenting its achievements, but a civilization offering a fundamental reimagining of potential. The final wave of transmission was perhaps the most remarkable. It was an invitation, not to submission, not to conflict, but to mutual exploration of potential. Mathematical theorems danced with artistic representations, scientific principles merged with philosophical insights. Lieutenant Novik's systems detected a profound shift. The Zarkonian communication networks were no longer purely defensive. They had become curious, adaptive, almost alive with potential. "Do you understand?" the transmission seemed to ask. The nature of possibility. The diplomatic chamber vibrated with unspoken potential. Humanity had just demonstrated something far more profound than technological capability. They had revealed a fundamental approach to existence. Adaptive, curious, profoundly complex. Captain Chen allowed a moment of silence. The true communication was happening in the spaces between transmissions, in the quantum charge potential of mutual understanding. The decision reverberated through the Zarkonian hegemony like a quantum disruption. In the vast central communication hub of their primary governance sphere, Ambassador Krultax transmitted the preliminary first contact analysis. The holographic representations of the highest-ranking Zarkonian leadership flickered with unprecedented uncertainty. Grand Coordinator Velnax, whose sensory appendages had guided the hegemony's expansion for 7 stellar cycles, listened with growing unease. The transmission from the human encounter was unlike any diplomatic report in the hegemony's extensive galactic archives. "Explain," Velnax demanded, "the precise nature of the communication encounter." Ambassador Krultax's report was a complex tapestry of data, psychological analysis, and unprecedented observations. The human delegation had not presented a traditional threat. Instead, they had demonstrated something far more challenging, a fundamental approach to existence that defied the Zarkonian understanding of species development. The communication networks of the hegemony began to process the encounter. Each transmission revealed layers of complexity that challenged their most fundamental operational protocols. The humans were not a species to be categorized, controlled, or conquered. They were a dynamic system of potential. Dr. Zinrak, the hegemony's chief xenological analyst, began compiling a comprehensive report. The data suggested something unprecedented. A species that viewed challenges not as obstacles to overcome, but as opportunities for transformation. Our standard integration protocols, Dr. Zinrak's analysis emerged, are fundamentally incompatible with human cognitive and technological approaches. The withdrawal began as a subtle recalibration. Fleet deployments near human-identified star systems were quietly redirected. Communication channels were not closed, but transformed into observation networks that maintained a respectful distance. Grand Coordinator Velnax understood the profound nature of the decision. The Zarkonian hegemony had encountered species before. They had conquered, integrated, or eliminated countless civilizations across multiple galactic sectors. But humanity represented something entirely different. Captain Aria Chen and her crew aboard the Horizon watched with careful precision as the alien vessels began their systematic withdrawal. Dr. Marcus Rodriguez's analysis systems detected the nuanced communication patterns. This was not a retreat, but a profound strategic recalibration. "They're reassessing," Lieutenant Kamila Novak observed, her communication systems parsing the complex quantum transmissions. Not just our encounter, but their entire approach to galactic interaction. Araya, the ship's advanced AI, generated comprehensive models of the Zarkonian decision-making process. Each model revealed the same fundamental conclusion. Humanity represented an unpredictable variable that could not be easily integrated into existing hegemony structures. The withdrawal was not sudden, but deliberate. Zarkonian outposts near human-identified space were carefully dismantled. Communication networks were transformed into passive observation systems. It was a strategic retreat that suggested profound respect and caution. Grand Coordinator Velnax transmitted the final directive. "Maintain observation. The communication emerge, but do not engage." Dr. Zinrak's analysis highlighted the unprecedented nature of the decision. The Zarkonian hegemony was admitting, for the first time in its extensive galactic history, that a species existed beyond their comprehensive understanding. Aboard the Horizon, Captain Chen understood the profound nature of the moment. This was not a victory in traditional terms. It was a demonstration of humanity's most powerful attribute, the ability to transform potential conflict into a path of mutual understanding. The quantum communication networks continued to pulse with information. Each transmission carried the subtle complexity of the human encounter. Not a threat, not a conquest, but an invitation to reimagine galactic interaction. Lieutenant Novik's systems detected the final layers of the Zarkonian withdrawal. Their communication patterns suggested something remarkable, a species capable of fundamental cognitive and strategic adaptation. Fascinating, Dr. Rodriguez muttered, watching the complex data streams. They've chosen observation over conflict. ARIA generated a final comprehensive model of the encounter. The humans had not defeated the Zarkonian hegemony. They had presented a fundamental challenge to their understanding of species interaction, technological development, and potential. Grand Coordinator Velnax transmitted a final, encrypted communication to the deepest archives of the hegemony. It was a warning, an observation, and an acknowledgement. Humanity represented a fundamental shift in galactic understanding. The withdrawal was complete, but it was far from a defeat. It was an acknowledgement of a species that could not be understood through traditional galactic protocols. Captain Chen allowed a moment of reflection. The true victory was not in conflict, but in the demonstration of human potential. Adaptive, curious, profoundly complex. Maintain standard observation protocols, she instructed her crew. The encounter was far from over. It was, in many ways, just beginning. 5 stellar cycles after the encounter, the galactic communication networks continued to pulse with the subtle echoes of humanity's first contact with the Zarkonian hegemony. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, daughter of Marcus Rodriguez from the original Horizon mission, led the Galactic Interaction Research Institute, a testament to the profound shift in humanity's approach to interstellar diplomacy. The Zarkonian withdrawal had created a remarkable cascade of consequences. Other spacefaring civilizations began to view humanity with a mixture of curiosity, respect, and carefully measured caution. Intelligence reports from multiple star systems suggested a fundamental recalibration of galactic interaction protocols. Captain Arya Chen, now serving as the primary diplomatic advisor to Earth's Interstellar Council, watched the developing situation with a combination of scientific precision and hard-earned wisdom. The encounter had been more than a diplomatic mission. It had been a fundamental demonstration of human potential. Arya, now a sophisticated network of quantum AI systems distributed across multiple research and diplomatic installations, continued to analyze the long-term implications of the first contact scenario. Each analysis revealed the same profound conclusion. Humanity had changed the fundamental understanding of species interaction. The research institutes that emerged from the encounter were perhaps the most significant outcome. The Galactic Interaction Research Institute became a beacon of collaborative exploration, attracting scientific and diplomatic minds from emerging civilizations across multiple star systems. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's latest report captured the essence of the transformation. "We are not conquerors," her analysis concluded. "We are a process of continuous potential." Diplomatic channels that had once been rigid hierarchical structures began to transform. The Zarkonian observational networks, initially established to monitor humanity, had become collaborative research platforms. Each transmission carried the subtle complexity of mutual understanding. Lieutenant Kamila Novik's communication research teams continued to develop revolutionary communication technologies. The quantum communication matrices developed during the initial encounter had opened up entirely new approaches to interspecies dialogue. The most profound changes were happening at the cultural and philosophical levels. Emerging civilizations began to study the human encounter as a case study of diplomatic and technological potential. The traditional galactic models of species interaction were being fundamentally reimagined. Grand Coordinator Velmax, now retired from active hegemony leadership, occasionally transmitted reflective communications to deep archival networks. Each transmission carried a subtle acknowledgement. Humanity represented a fundamental shift in understanding species potential. The Horizon, now a museum piece and research installation, became a symbol of the encounter. Its quantum communication arrays, technological innovations, and diplomatic artifacts were studied by emerging civilizations as a comprehensive case study of human approach. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's team discovered something remarkable. The initial encounter had not just changed human-alien interactions, it had fundamentally transformed humanity's understanding of its own potential. The encounter had become a moment of collective self-discovery. Aria's comprehensive model suggested that the encounter had multiple layers of long-term implications. The passive observation networks established by the Zarkonian hegemony had become collaborative research platforms. Each transmission carried the potential of mutual understanding. Captain Chen's strategic approach had become a fundamental model of diplomatic interaction. Universities across multiple star systems began developing diplomatic training programs based on the principles demonstrated during the encounter. The quantum communication technologies developed during the initial encounter began to transform multiple scientific disciplines. Communication was no longer seen as a tool of control, but as a complex ecosystem of mutual exploration. Dr. Zinrak, the former Zarkonian chief sinological analyst, had become a surprising advocate for collaborative exploration. Their research communications suggested a fundamental shift in understanding species interaction. The most profound transformation was happening at the cultural level. Emerging civilizations began to view challenges not as obstacles to overcome, but as opportunities for collective growth and understanding. Elena Rodriguez's final research presentation captured the essence of the encounter. "We are not defined by our technologies," her analysis concluded, "but by our capacity for continuous transformation." The Galactic Interaction Research Institute became a living testament to the encounter. Each research project, each diplomatic communication, carried the subtle complexity of human potential. Adaptive, curious, profoundly complex. As stellar cycles passed, the encounter remained a pivotal moment of galactic understanding. Humanity had not conquered, not submitted, but had presented a fundamental challenge to existing models of species interaction. The quantum communication networks continued to pulse with potential. Each transmission carried a simple, profound message. The universe was not a place to be conquered, but a space of continuous exploration and understanding. We are not an endpoint. The transmissions seemed to communicate. We are a process of continuous becoming.